Hey guys, it's Meg, the Literary Prepper, back with you again. Trying really hard to sort of do an outside video because I know staring at the back of my study wall gets very boring over time. So we're outside on a very glary, drizzly day. It's sort of raining on and off here, which, you know, we need some solid rain, but it doesn't look like we're getting it. It looks like we're just getting something that's going to be annoying so that we can't do laundry. But, you know, you never curse the rain. Also trying to not get my neighbour's ugly little green thingy in view, but, you know, that's what happens. They're still in the process of doing some renovations to their house. We hear that the people who are actually doing the construction have gone broke, so not sure when their house is actually going to be finished for them, unfortunately. And then, you know, sort of if I go too far over that way, then it gets a little bit too glary, so I apologise if the video is not that great today, but trying to do a really quick one. So the council over the last few days have tried to distribute a sort of a notice to, you know, the people in the area about trying to get prepared because we are still in bushfire season, and you know, there's a lot of people that have recently moved into the area, and you know, obviously they're trying to sort of make everyone aware of what it is that they need to do to be safe. I always find it interesting to and I also apologise for the flies if you guys can see that. We've got a bit of a fly issue with the problem because, you know, we've had a lot of dry weather and now we've had some rain. They've all decided they're going to come out. I don't know about fly breeding, but apparently, you know, that's what they're like. But council have issued this sort of thing. I find it interesting to sort of go over other people's preparedness plans and see if there's anything that I've missed that I can borrow from their plan, or if you know, theirs looks quite basic in comparison to ours, because that makes me feel better about what we're doing. Obviously that means that there's a hole in someone else's plan, but hopefully through conversation with individuals, obviously not with council, but with individuals, then you can hopefully help them to get a better sort of preparedness plan for themselves and their families. But the one that I just read from council, it's pretty much the same thing that, you know, we sort of try to, you know, spread the word about in general. It's making sure that first and foremost that you have some kind of evacuation plan. Now, if we're talking about something like a bushfire that's bearing down on your house, then it's really not a good idea to try to stay and fight that yourself, no matter how well you think your plan is. You know, you see it sort of every time there's a massive bushfire goes through a section of the community where people have tried to save their properties and they've wound up losing their lives. It's just really not a good idea. Obviously, if you become trapped and that's your only option, then, you know, you go down fighting. But if you have an option and an opportunity to evacuate, then you don't want to be going up against a bushfire, because that's just something that, you know, you can't win against. And the same thing goes for floods. Like, you can't beat a wall of water, and it's not fair to ask somebody else to come in and try to sort of save you from a situation that you've deliberately put yourself in. I always find it really disturbing when you watch like the news or whatever, and they've been advertising for ages that these big storms are coming, or that, you know, they close the beaches or whatever, and you get some, you know, delightful git who wants to go out and go surfing during the big storm, and then they always get into trouble, and, you know, some, you know, well-meaning lifeguard or, you know, SES person will go out and try to save them, and that person will wind up getting injured or killed because of somebody else's stupidity. And I don't care who you are, that's not fair to ask somebody else to risk their life because you are too stupid to follow instructions. Anyway, that's my little rant. So the biggest thing that they sort of say is to have a plan. So work out in advance if something were to happen where you can't stay in your property, then you need to leave. And you also, according to their list, need to, and it's good practice anyway, contact any friends and family that you have outside of the area or outside of the state. First of all, just a courtesy thing to let them know that you are okay. We have a lot of family down in Victoria, and the news down there makes it sound like every time we get a little bit of rain, we've got this massive cyclone that's going to blow the tops off the houses, and they stress out quite a bit because they're under the impression that every time it rains we're going to die, which, chronic stress is not a good thing. You can look up any study you like. Chronic stress is never a positive thing. So make sure that your friends and family know where you are, and if possible, know if you're coming to them or if you've got another location that you're going to or whatever, but contact people so that they know where you are and that you are okay. And try to sort of liaise with these people if possible, that you can use them as a secondary location if you do need to evacuate. But then that also comes back to what I've been trying to sort of say to you guys about having like a stash of money, or something that's very easy to liquidate, like gold and silver. Have some kind of emergency stash somewhere so that if you need to stay in a motel for a period of time, then you can do that without too much hassle. Because obviously if you don't have anywhere to go, then you need to pay for somewhere to go. The next thing that's down on their list of how to be prepared for some sort of flood or bushfire type evacuation scenario is medical supplies. Do you know first aid? If you don't, there are courses that are running all the time that you guys can sign up for. I'm sure that there's a plethora of people who have posted on YouTube if you don't want to pay to do a course, because they are quite tedious, especially if you do try to sort of keep your first aid certificate up to date. It's just rehashing a lot of the old information, but useful to keep at the front of your mind so that if there is a situation where you need to act, then you can do it immediately without having to pause and try to remember exactly what it was that you were supposed to be doing. So you want first aid training, or any other kind of medical training that would be helpful in a situation like that. You want to be an asset to people, not a liability. So if you're a liability, then find out how you can change that, because that's not fair. That's not fair to anyone. You want to have enough medical supplies. So you want to have something that you can use to sterilize wounds. You want to have something to dress those wounds. You want to have something that you can use to immobilize limbs if someone twists an ankle or breaks a leg, or God forbid is bitten by a snake or a spider, which around here is unfortunately a reality of life, is that you can't walk around in the grass sort of a late afternoon, evening sort of thing, because you probably wind up getting bitten by something. But just make sure that you have some kind of first aid kit or medical kit on hand that you can easily sort of take with you if you need to evacuate, or if someone gets into trouble or whatever. So keep that somewhere we can find it, and keep it sort of constantly stocked up. Don't try to sort of get down to your last band-aid before you run to the shop. Make sure that you've always got a good stock of your first aid supplies with you. So then the other thing that they start talking about is, again, what we've always been hammering on about, is enough food and water that it doesn't matter if the shops are closed for a period of time. So whatever, that they didn't actually give a sort of idea of what they recommend. They just said make sure that you have some. Some to me is not really specific enough. So let's say we are talking about something like, you know, a flood or a bushfire or whatever. You probably need to have at least several weeks worth of food and water up your sleeve, because you don't know what's going to happen. Now, as far as moving that around goes, if you need to sort of leave in a hurry, you can't take that with you. But if you're in a situation where you are able to stay in your home and you just happen to be cut off, so if, you know, the main road from your house to the shops is cut off, then you need to make sure that you have enough stored so that that doesn't become an issue. Again, if you don't have that, then you're a liability, and that's not fair to anyone around you. So make sure that you have, you know, food, water, hygiene, sanitation products. You know, nobody wants to go for a week without toothpaste, so, or worse, no one wants to sort of have to, you know, scrounge something to use instead of, you know, a tampon, for example. That's just icky. No one wants to think about that. So the other thing is to make sure that your property is in order. So if we are looking at something like a bushfire, make sure that you keep the, you know, gardens and trees around your property pruned, and, you know, the leaves are away from the guttering, so that you don't have this, you know, ready set kindling on your roof ready to sort of spark into a blaze if, you know, an ember hits it or whatever. Make sure that you know, you've got, you know, enough sort of lawn soakers or sprinkler systems or whatever that you can give the ground a really, really proper soak. Even before you do evacuate, you know, you can never be too careful with things. Just, you know, try to sort of make it so that your property is as safe as possible whilst keeping yourself as safe as possible. And making sure that your pets and children are aware of whatever it is that's going on. This is not a time to lie to them and tell them that everything is okay. Don't scare them, because, you know, you don't want them to scream and run and freak out and, you know, basically be an even bigger burden at a time where you need to act quickly. But if you do regular drills, or if you talk to them about things on a regular basis, and then, you know, sort of when the time comes, you can say, remember when we did this, then, you know, if they already know that they need to go and grab, you know, whatever clothing will fit in a particular bag, or they need to go and grab a couple of toys, or, you know, find, you know, a photo album or whatever it is, just make sure that they know that if something happens, this is what you do. So for me and my brother, when we were growing up, it was, if there's a house fire, first thing you do is scream as loud as you can, so that, you know, if for whatever reason people aren't awake, then, you know, you scream as loud as you can. And then we all had windows on our bedrooms, which just had like thin fly screens over them that didn't have security screens or anything like that. So we were to push those screens out, jump out the window, and then run across to our neighbour's house. And that was sort of our basic evacuation plan if something happened. We were told not to go and find anyone in the house. Don't worry about, you know, taking anything with us. Just push the window out and run to a specific location, not just run in general, but to a specific location. And the house that we were supposed to go to across the road was a neighbour that we were very, very close with. And, you know, it was sort of people that we knew that if we went to them, they would help immediately, because they also had 4 kids. So try to identify someone like that in the neighbourhood that you can sort of lean on if you've got kids that you need to test out some sort of evacuation plan with. So that's, you know, pretty much in short what you guys need to do to stay prepared is, you know, get your medical kits in order, make sure that you have food and water stored, have some kind of evacuation plan. If you've already got inch bags or bug out bags or whatever in your car, then it just makes that so much easier. All you have to do is grab a few bits and pieces on your way out and you're gone. So these people that say that they have like an hour to get out, then that's, once that, it's like when you're checking out of a motel, you get some people who want to leave early and you get some people who want to check out right on that 10 o'clock sort of bell, and everyone rushes to the front counter and they all want to check out at the same time, except this time we're not talking about a counter, we're talking about a road. So you don't want to be stuck on the road with everyone who is wanting to basically get out of Dodge at the same time, because that's where issues occur, traffic jams or whatnot. So make sure that you are ready to go at a moment's notice. Particularly if you do sort of hear that something is coming your way that is a very sort of realistic, you need to evacuate kind of situation. Make sure that your kids know what to do, and communicate with everyone around you, because you also, if you're in the middle of trying to evacuate, you don't want to be fielding phone calls from every person on your contacts list to see if you're okay or not. So make sure that you keep in contact with people so that they don't unnecessarily panic. I think that was pretty much everything that I wanted to go over. Just on a very, very different note, talking about different plants and things that you guys should have around. This one is also another one that I try to grow a little bit of. I use a lot of rosemary when I'm cooking. This stuff is brilliant. It's a very slow growing plant. It smells great. It grows quite big if you leave it alone and don't keep picking the leaves off. And you can sort of dry it and just keep it on hand so that you've always got a stash. This will make even the most bland of meals taste decent. So, been joined by the puppy dog. Hello. This will be a real asset if you do need to start resorting to eating plain tasting food or trading or anything like that. So grow rosemary. Grow all sorts of herbs, but grow rosemary. You can never go wrong with rosemary. But that's sort of my thoughts on that. So if you guys found this useful, feel free to share, like, subscribe. If you do want to make sure that you stay up to date with all of our content and videos, make sure that you hit the little bell on the subscribe button, otherwise you might not receive notifications. I think that's a relatively new thing that YouTube have gotten into, where you've got to hit the bell instead of just hitting subscribe. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to mention. Super excited. I'm going to do a separate video at some stage in the future when I get time. We've just gotten a shipment of Mylar bags that have come in. I know like a lot of people in the US are probably thinking, oh, what's so good about Mylar bags? We can't find them over here. We have to actually ship them in from overseas because apparently nobody over here has a need for them or whatever. So yes, once I actually get all of my stuff together and have a bagging day, then I'll make another video on that. But for now, that's me. I hope you guys have a good day.